Okay, so Navigo, we've been around since 2007, a privately held Australian business. We're based in Melbourne, and the team here are working with a little over 600 customers around Australia. Each year we publish the Australian HR Technology Survey, and I'll put up a link in a moment for you. You can click through to that and download a copy. That's always very, very well received. Navigo is Australia's only independent Ascender payroll consultancy. So we work with a lot of companies on different payroll systems, providing consulting support for upgrades and development of payroll systems. Today we're going to talk through some workforce management tools and their use, so org charting, organisational design, transition management, and managing data within your HRIS system. Just thought I'd just quickly touch on our sister company. So that is HR Onboard. Some of you may have talked to us about HR Onboard. The platform is focused on companies and bringing on new employees and giving them a world-class onboarding experience. So the two main functions of the platform, offers and welcome programs. So offers allow online offer acceptance for your employees. So the documents and the actual offer is managed through the platform in an online format. There's notifications and workflow that sit behind that and step through the process with the new employee and the hiring manager. And also the contracts and the document flow is managed and stored in the platform. As part of that, we have the welcome programs platform and module, and this focuses on orientation and welcome for that new employee. So there's time-based content and triggers that sends out information to that employee through that offer and acceptance phase and onto their onboarding and when they first start and onwards from them. So that really gives new employees a sense of belonging and a welcome to their new organisation. Okay, so just quickly, the Australian HR Tech Survey. This is a survey that we run each year. You can see on the screen the different sections that we survey and get responses for, and this really focuses on Australian and New Zealand organisations and their HR systems and adoption within their organisations. So you can access that from our website or via my LinkedIn page. So we have a couple of org charting solutions, the ones that you'd be familiar with, Org Plus and Planning at Work, and the functionality in there focuses on org charting, workforce modelling, planning and succession planning. So those are the tools that we'll reference today. So what I'll do is I'll just hand over now to Billy, who will get started with today's webinar, and then I'll talk to you at the end. Thank you. Thanks, Billy.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew, for that intro. And so as he mentioned today, we're really here to talk about your bad data within your HRISs and how we can really go about cleaning that. So the best place to start really is why should you care about bad data? So bad data can affect businesses in a few different ways. So first off is when you're trying to implement new systems within the organization, whether it's a new HRIS, so doing a migration, or bringing in a new tool to work along with it. So we see that this is really an issue when you actually start to use this information that's been collected over time and just stacked up. It's really making difficult transitions for you. One company recently had around 3,000 vacancies, which they just wanted to get rid of. They didn't know they had it, but it was there. You can also increase your cost when you're looking at new systems, either when the licensing is around the amount of records. So if you have lots more unneeded records there, it's going to increase your pricing by a lot, which is not needed in most cases. You can then also have easier reports once you resolve the bad data, because no longer will you have to really filter out the not needed records, whether it's because they've been ended and just stayed there, or the information that is stored in your HRIS is not relevant anymore. So then you have your, similar to reporting, preparing for your workforce analytics. So this is to really start using your data and getting a better picture of the organization. It's hard to get that larger picture if the information you're feeding through it is lacking or stacked with additional information which is not needed. And finally is really reducing your HR process time so that you can be freed up to do other work, more business vital work, as opposed to slogging through data that really needs to be cleaned up. So what really causes your dirty data within an organization? So we see a few different sources of this. So first off is having no single source of truth. So when you have either departments looking after their own establishment, or have a separation of your payroll and HRIS, so that there is no single point of reference in an organization that you can accurately and confidently go back to. So that always leads to errors within the organization. It also leads to missing data. So sometimes if departments look after their own information, they'll each follow their own source of processes. There's no one single source of data and information recorded. So people may just get their own information and no longer have a consistent look and feel within the business. You can also have your broken hierarchies. So people no longer reporting in accurately for their line managers. That can cause a lot of issues when you're wanting to move to self-service, or even get an idea of teams within the organization without actually being on the ground with the teams themselves. And finally is your code management. So every HR system or payroll system will have their own sets of codes, which you get to learn all about and then change over time. These may actually stay in place if they're not closed off properly, which makes that management a lot more difficult, because records will be referring to different versions of those code tables, and you will never actually be able to get a accurate view of that. So we want to ask you all what your biggest reason for cleaning your data is. So whether it's having too many inaccurate reports, you're wanting to migrate to a new system, having too many internal HR processes, which are leading to errors, or moving to your self-service. So I'm going to launch a poll now for everyone. We'll just stay on this for a few minutes and let everyone respond. Okay, that looks as if we've gotten everyone's response. So over half of the attendees today are saying your main reason is your inaccurate reports. So yeah, that's actually quite interesting to see amongst everyone. Okay. Let's carry on with the presentation. So now that we've gone over why you should care and what causes it, we're all about solutions here at Navigo, so we're always wanting to really share our knowledge and expertise around this information. So we have a few practical steps to actually help you get started on your data cleansing. So first up is really working out what that root cause is for that dirty data. Either it's a internal process which is too complicated or time-consuming for either HR department or even outside in the wider organization that really leads to misinformation coming back to you, or some other just collecting data over time which just is never checked or cleansed, that just stacks up within your organization. Then once you have that root cause, you can also set up different sorts of alarms to help you quickly identify this sort of dirty data, either within your HRIS, having some sort of validation in place to assist you when you're getting set up, or using different sorts of tools that you already have access to assist with that validation yourself. Which leads us to your visualization. So once you have a tool to actually help visualize the data, it makes it readily accessible to a wider audience. So people can start to assist you with the data cleansing, because no one will know it better than the actual people on the ground that it's referring to. They'll know if they've changed positions, if data's changed for them, and they'll be more than happy to let you know to correct those issues. So that they're actually taking control of that, or not control, but more taking ownership of the validation. So you're actually socializing the process instead of having it locked down to just an HR team or even an individual to work through it all. And lastly is really to focus on the data that matters to you. So it's really getting an idea of what you want your organization to look like. Are you wanting to have an accurate establishment for the organization, so you know where everyone is at the given time? Or are you wanting to get a bigger picture of where your organization is going? So getting an accurate snapshot every 6 months to know your growth. So a few different tools that can help you really work through this data cleansing and verification. So first off is using some sort of existing tools, whether it's for those proficient in Excel, having spreadsheets to interrogate your data, or even within your HRIS to look at that information, where it's stored, and then have your sorts of verification and validation within that. For that, you do need to have some expertise. So you need to be proficient in the HRIS to be able to take full advantage of that. Then the next option really is your visualization tools to make it readily accessible to a wider audience. So that's either through org charts or different sorts of graphs that are taking advantage of your data. So once you can share it out in a more fairly accessible way, it's then a lot easier for everyone to come on board and assist you with the work. Finally is your analytics and different sorts of reports. So that is really getting that bigger picture of your organization and where you are heading. So as we're quite proficient in the visualization and that sort of tool, we kind of want to go a bit more in depth on what the visualization means for an organization. So the tools that either we can provide or that you have already are ways to have a window into your HR data. no longer do you have to be like a HRIS 21 expert to know all of the tables, all the views in there. You can actually have it presented to you in a way that makes sense to anyone. So that's the visualization tool, which is then accessed by everyone in the organization, whoever needs that sort of information, through different sorts of ways, whether it's an org chart on your company intranet or a presentation report that you can have shared. So we're going to take this visualization one step further, and we're going to go through a few demos within Planning at Work. So these are pre-recorded demos, which I'll just kind of talk over the top of, just to kind of highlight the ways that we are looking at the data. So first off, we're going to be looking at different orphan records. So an orphan record, both in HRISs and our system, are someone who is not connected to the main body of the hierarchy. So this can cause lots of issues, whether it's actually sign off. So we have a few ways to visualize that. So we have a system list for orphans. This gives you a list of everyone not connected to the main body. We can also then look at this in the org tree view to give us a different view of this data. So instead of just having everyone listed, we can actually see that there are a few teams within the orphan list, like Laura Denning and Malcolm Sumbers, who actually have reports, but them themselves do not report to anyone. So this actually makes our job a lot easier. So instead of fixing each individual report, we just need to fix that one to bring it all together. So we're going to go ahead and create a plan. So we're going to call this one corporate development, because that's the area that we're going to be focusing on today. And we're going to choose the plan focus, which will be the entire chart, and bring this into our sandpit area in planner model. So we'll search for the head of the corporate development team in our search panel. And click down into her team. So we already know where we want to bring Malcolm Summers into the organization. So we can just click and drag his record into George's box. So now we bring that orphan record, previously not connected to the organization, into the full org structure. So we'll just jump down to Malcolm's box, and we also see that his team, so his direct reports, have been brought through as well. So now if we go back up to the top of corporate development, so we have a few different views in the setup to really look at different sorts of information available to us. So a helpful one for this would be our direct subordinates, which is like a standards and layers report in an organization. So here we can see before we did the move, we had a headcount of 7, FTE of 6. So in the plan, we can recalculate these formulas because it's all stored within Planning at Work. To then get a picture of what that change has done to that team. So now, yes, we have a headcount of 12, FTE of 9. So depending on what sort of KPIs you want to work towards when you actually bringing people in from orphans, you can get you can quickly see what the changes can actually do to the organization. So once you've made that change, you can then take it back to your HRIS once it's been approved, that is where the report should be to then correct your data source, your source of truth. Yeah. So next we're going to move into a data validation tool, way to check your information in Planning at Work. So here, even without knowing what the chart's about, we can see that Jessica Brando jumps out of the chart straight away. So this is highlighting her box because there's an issue with her employment type versus her FTE. So if you look in the box, you can see she's a part-timer, but it has an FTE of 1.00. So she's actually, there's a data mismatch in there. So quickly, we get a visual cue to assist with us, or assist us identifying that individual. So this is just set up by looking at the data within that is being fed through to Planning at Work. So there is another way to really look at this information would be through the, let me just catch up with my demo. Yeah, so this is really just using your different data stored within your system to then really get an idea of what's happening. Just jump forward. Yep, so instead of navigating through the entire chart to work out where each data issue is, we can set up a smart list. So this is setting up a condition. So in this case, when full-timers have an FTE of less than 1, we want to pick up these records. So no matter where they are within the organization, they'll appear on this list of ours. And then we can, so we found that Karen Hellman is one of these full-timers with an FTE of less than 1. So we can quickly jump to her record in the chart to then visualize, to see that it's been highlighted as well. So this is really to through the use of the smart list, you can get your different data checks in place, and as your data source is updated, brought into Planning at Work, these lists will also be updating. So the information will be dynamic. So as you go back to your HR system to update this and feed through the information, she'll be removed. And then if anyone else appears to have that issue again, we could then quickly find them on this list as well. Yeah. So the last demo we'll jump into is around the really when HR processes aren't followed completely. So here we have a establishment view of the organization. We can see that Patricia Parker over here in the Human Resources Director, she was currently acting in that position. However, that position, she was acting in until the 10th of this month. So we've already flagged that on the box, highlighting that end date as red. So we can see that there's an issue here. Either her occupancy in that position should have ended and moved back to her substantial, or we need to extend that within the system. So this can cause a few different issues within an organization. So if she is listed there in your HRIS, she'll also then be the one for signing off different your leave or different sorts of requests. And also her substantial position is vacant at the moment. So that may be seen as someone else in the team could then potentially fill that position, when in reality, she's actually back in that position now. So there can be different sorts of issues arising from that very simple mistake of not moving her back. We also have Joan Smith, who is the substantial Human Resources Director, who is currently shown as on leave in that position. So everything for her, yeah, so that then may cause issues down the track, either accruing additional leave, which when she's back at work, or other issues in your data source. Okay, so with that quick cue, we can then go back and fix that data, either extending her Patricia's period in that position, or moving it back to her substantial. Okay. Yeah, so those were 3 quick examples of how we can use visualization tools to really help you interrogate your data and assist you with that cleansing. So we'll go into some key takeaways from this. So first of all is really cutting down your HR admin time. So instead of having to ad hocly cleanse your data for each report you have. You're going to the source of the issue, identifying that root cause, resolving it, and also knowing what that data is in your source of truth. So you can always rely on that to have a true sense of the organization. So then you have having the ability to distribute meaningful and timely data. So no longer do you have to remove information each time you produce the report. You can rely on the system to actually share out the information and have everyone be able to access it on a daily basis and constantly rely on that. Lastly is your ability to start crowdsourcing your data cleansing. So once you have it in a state where everyone can access it and it can be relied upon, you can then start having the actual organization taking ownership of those different small data changes that if there is something missed, they can quickly notify you, either through some sort of request form or just update in their self-service. Okay.
All right, thanks, Billy. And I think for everybody on the webinar, you can really get a great sense of Billy's knowledge of the platform. And what we wanted to do was show a couple of ways that you can interact with your data using visualization tools. And so we had a couple of questions I was just going to go through, but also what I wanted to do is just let everybody know that we're planning to run webinars on a fairly regular basis and pick different topics, and happy to take suggestions from everybody either directly or feel free to type into your chat box if there's a particular topic you'd like us to look at for you next time. It might be something that in your organisation you're trying to do, or you've got questions about, or you've attempted and had some challenges in terms of getting that in place. So feel free to type that into the chat box and we'll take that into the next webinar, or you can email myself or Billy and we'll add that to our topic list. So the couple of questions that we had, the first couple of questions we have were actually regarding HR Onboard. So we've had a question about the functionality and whether the HR Onboard assists with probation management, and the answer is yes. So the functionality within the platform does interact with probation and the different items within that, and also around time-based content and notifications. So the welcome programs has notifications that are based on timeframes. So throughout the different stages, the triggers will happen at different points in time as configured into the system. So just one other question that I was going to ask here for Billy, in terms of, Billy, when somebody makes some changes in the platform, what are their options for using that data or interacting with, what can they do with that data once they've changed something, they've identified something, and then made an update to their org chart?
Yeah, sure. So when you're doing it in that plan, you can then explore in a few different ways, either as a PDF, so you can share the new proposed structure, or you can send it out in a CSV file to then take it back to your HRIS to update.
Okay, great. So any changes in the system, they can export them out and feed that back into the platform.
Exactly.
Okay, and just in terms of reports that people use, what are some common reports that you've seen people use when they're interrogating their data?
Yeah, so we went through a few of them today briefly. So you had your direct subordinates or spans and layers. Then you can also have different sorts of like age and gender balances within the organization. So it's really whatever sort of information you have available that you want to report on.
You can customize that as well.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And I can see from some of the comments coming through, we've got a couple of topics and one of them around reporting as well. So I think that could be a really good one for us to look at in our next webinar. So what I'll do is I'll wrap that up there and give everybody a little bit more time back for their lunch. So I appreciate everyone's time in attending today. My contact details are on the screen there, and as well as the link to the Australian HR Tech Survey. Thanks everybody for your time, and look forward to talking with you in our next webinar.